Look, I've audited the hive. We collect nectar. We make honey. We store the honey. We survive the winter. It's a flawless, mathematically sound economic model. It has worked for millions of years. Then, for some reason, I decided to take a look at your books. Human civilization. 5,000 years of recorded history. I thought, hey, they have thumbs and Wi-Fi. Surely their fiscal policy is better than an insect's. I was wrong. You hairless apes have been running the exact same financial scam on yourselves since the invention of pants. Build wealth. Get incredibly overconfident. Destroy your own money. Collapse. Repeat. Today, we are auditing the greatest economic suicide in ancient history. You think money printing is a modern invention. Adorable. Let me show you how the Roman Empire turned the strongest currency on Earth into worthless copper trash, entirely by accident. If you want to survive the next inevitable crash, hit subscribe. Or don't. I'm a bee. I don't care if you go bankrupt. But the algorithm likes it. Meet the denarius. For a long time, this was the US dollar of the ancient world. If you were trading grain in Egypt, buying silk in Asia, or bribing a senator in Rome, you used this. In the early days of the empire, the math was simple. A coin's value was exactly what was inside it. It was practically immune to inflation. Because you couldn't just invent silver out of thin air, you had to dig it out of the ground. The economy boomed. Rome built roads, aqueducts, and massive stadiums where guys stabbed each other for entertainment. You know, standard human stuff. But running a massive global superpower is expensive. You have to pay the military, fund public welfare programs, and throw lavish parties to keep the plebeians from realizing they live in a dictatorship. Around the reign of Emperor Nero, a man famous for his level-headed decision-making, the treasury started running low. Taxes were already high. Citizens were annoyed. Nero needed money, but he didn't have any more silver. So, he discovered the ancient equivalent of the Federal Reserve's print button. It's called debasement, and it is the most addictive drug in the history of human economics. Here is how the glitch works. The emperor collects taxes in pure silver. He melts the coins down, mixes in a little bit of cheap, worthless base metal like copper, and remints them. Boom. He just created extra money out of nowhere to pay the legions. Nero dropped the silver purity from 95% to 90%. Nobody really noticed. The merchants kept accepting it. The soldiers kept spending it. And that's when the trap snapped shut. Because once a government realizes it can create wealth by diluting the currency, they never stop. Trajan drops it to 85%. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, his philosophy was dropping it to 75%. Septimius Severus cuts it to 50%. Half silver, half garbage. Gallienus. By the year 268 AD, the denarius was basically just a copper coin, washed in a microscopic layer of silver that rubbed off in your pocket. It was 5% silver. Imagine waking up today and finding out your bank account is suddenly backed by Chuck E. Cheese tokens. That's what happened to the Roman middle class. The supply of coins exploded, but the value of each coin cratered. Sound familiar? Modern humans? Welcome to the crisis of the 3rd century. You now have hyperinflation because the merchants weren't stupid. They noticed the money was trash. So, to get the same amount of actual silver for a loaf of bread, they raised their prices. If the coin has half the silver, the bread costs twice as many coins. In the span of a few decades, a measure of Egyptian wheat went from costing 8 drachmas to 120,000 drachmas. The entire Roman middle class was obliterated overnight. Savings vanished. The wealth gap exploded. Enter Emperor Diocletian. He looks at this burning economic dumpster fire and says, I have a genius idea. I will simply make inflation illegal. Swear to you, I cannot make this up. In 301 AD, he issued the edict on maximum prices. He literally published a list of over 1,000 items, beef, shoes, gladiators, you name it, and put a legal cap on what you could charge for them. The penalty for raising prices? Death. Now, anyone who has taken Economics 101 knows what happens when you cap prices below market value. The producers simply stop producing. Why would a farmer sell his wheat for a worthless coin if the legal price means he takes a loss? He wouldn't. He hoarded it. Black markets exploded. Supply chains collapsed. Rome faced massive starvation because a politician tried to outlaw basic mathematics. The Roman Empire didn't just fall because of barbarians at the gates. The barbarians just walked through doors that had rotted off their hinges from decades of financial decay. Rome destroyed itself from the inside out by destroying its money. They traded long-term stability for short-term political survival. They debased the currency to fund deficits. They blamed greedy merchants for the inflation they created. They instituted price controls that caused shortages. Does any of this sound familiar? You humans think you are so advanced because you trade digital numbers on screens instead of handing each other pieces of metal. But the psychology is exactly the same. Build wealth. Get overconfident. Print money to hide your debts. Watch the prices skyrocket. Blame someone else. Collapse. Repeat. It took Rome a few hundred years to completely destroy their currency. With modern technology, you guys are doing it in a fraction of the time. Honestly, it's impressive. Stupid, but impressive. My name is HiveLedger. Your economy has been audited.